today, first and foremost, a website has to be an educational tool and a resource for the user and the visitor.
So Dan, there are so many websites out there at the moment and they're all competing for our attention. What are the best ways to stand out from the crowd?
Well, as far as standing out from the crowd, it really means to be found from a website perspective. So really there are 4 elements that all organizations should concentrate on when they're looking at their website. First is the organic search, the second is the paid search, then there's direct traffic, and then there's referral traffic. And let me touch on those briefly. Organic search is what happens when you type something into Google, for example, a term or a search key, and the results show up on the page. You can look at different ways to improve that, such as search engine optimization, keyword structure, things like that, titles in the web pages themselves, captions on images. That will help increase your organic search results. Second way is by the paid search results. And you can use things like pay-per-click advertising, using Google AdWords, for example. And that means when you actually put in the search term as a user, then what is going to be projected on the results is usually in a advertised format, which is generally in the margin or just above. So it gives you a good relevant placement in the search results. The third way is actually by what's called direct search. And that is simply when somebody types in your website address. So what's key there is you want to make your address easy to remember. You don't want to make it very complicated, make it memorable, and then ensure that that address is on all your prominent literature, your business cards, your email signature, so that people definitely see it and then use that accordingly. And finally, you can look at ways in what's called referral traffic. And referral traffic is when other websites will then refer your website to it. And the key there is you want to have a lot of good referral traffic. You want to have referrals coming from high quality websites, New York Times, for example, maybe LinkedIn, Facebook, that are then going to give reference to your site, because when the search engines look at that, they understand that these are high quality sites that are recognizing your site as a possible result in the search, whatever that may be. So if you take all those elements and you put them together, then you should be able to get yourself found quite easily with a little bit of work.
Okay, so you sort of touched on sort of recognition and getting referrals. Is there a particular way that sort of a brand can get these websites to refer them?
Sure. There's quite a few ways that you can do that. First is using a public relations strategy. I mentioned New York Times just as an example. So if you are if you get on a reporter's list, or if you create a blog post or something that get picked up by a New York Times or another type of organization, then that can get referred back to your traffic. And then the second way is using blog posts or guest blogging, for example. So you can use guest blogs as a way to get people interested in your brand, and then once again, as a referral, they would go back to you. So you can use guest blogs, you can use PR techniques, and then you can take into account social media, which is also a little bit more in that that referral part, and which you use Twitter, you use Facebook, you use some of those ways in order to get back to that point.
Okay, it would seem sort of as technology grows, our attention spans do seem to be decreasing at the same rate. How do you get people to not only remember your website, but get them to keep clicking back?
Well, the key there is that unlike quite a few years ago, a website was basically a digital blueprint for an advertising billboard. And today, and even more in the future, today, first and foremost, a website has to be an educational tool and a resource for the user and the visitor. And so what you need to do is, and I really stress this, is that websites need to create valuable content. The term technically is called content marketing. And what that means is that you create a white paper, you create a newsletter, you create a how-to video, something that is going to educate the user and the visitor, something that's going to build credibility, and then therefore hopefully take them to the next level, whichever that step may be. That's really one of the ways that you have to do that. Second thing that you have to do is you have to make your website very easy to load. So it has to be quick, it has to be concise, the usability has to be good, so that the person doesn't get frustrated waiting for a page to load or the way it looks and can't find their way around and then they leave. And then the third way, which will be more and more important in the future even, is make sure that the website is optimized for a mobile platform. Because right now, many people are searching for websites and searching for results using their tablets, using their smartphones. And if you take a normal website that's designed for desktop and you put it on a mobile platform, it's very confusing. It doesn't lay out correctly. Again, confusion, and then the person leaves. So those are just 3 things that you can do to really increase the usage of the website and the engagement.
Okay, so you've got our attention, you've got us to keep clicking back to your website. How do you then get visitors to complete the action that you want them to take?
Well, what I want organizations to know is that there has to be, first of all, a clear strategy on the website on what action it is that they do want them to take. So what that may be is, it could be various options. It's not always going to lead directly to a end sale. So if you're an e-commerce site, your objective might be to get them to add an item to the cart. If you're looking at some sort of informational type of situation, you might get them to download a white paper. So how do you do that? First of all, you have to make sure that they understand in a clear, concise manner exactly what it is you want them to do. And again, click on this, get this, do that. Second thing is, when you do that, you have to make sure from the website perspective that it's placed in a strategic location so that people can find it. So they know that it stands out, they know exactly where it is, and it's not hidden away somewhere. And then really, once you get those elements into play, you just have to give them a compelling reason to actually do what you want them to do. And a lot of times what you're doing is you're kind of giving them a little reward. So you take a look at, if you want to subscribe to my email list, then I'm going to send you special offers that no one else gets. Or you're going to add this to the cart right now, so I'm going to give you a shipping discount. Something that will kind of entice the user to actually take that next step and move forward.
So Dan, what are the 3 main key points you want people to walk away with today?
Well, just to summarize what we've already talked about, really the keys are, if an organization will ensure that their site is able to be found, if they create and provide compelling educational content, and then they give a clear call to action for the user, that is naturally going to translate the user and the visitor into paying clients.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us today. We really appreciate your insight.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's all from myself today and Dan Zwerski. Thanks for watching, and as always, remember to keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV.